Hi, this is Mrs. Maxey speaking. This is a video for the Higher Applications of Maths course. We're looking at the statistics unit today, and I'm going to be covering some of the very basics of how to use RStudio. This particular video is going to cover how to upload Excel files into RStudio. There's a couple of things you need to know before I show you how to do this. Firstly, I'm bringing your attention to the data booklet as of 2025. This was published by the SQA for the Higher Applications of Maths course for the 2025 year. Be aware that if you're looking at this video in the future, it could change, but this is what it looks like in 2025. I'm going to tell you that, at first, it really starts with this information right at the beginning. Some helpful R commands entering data to RStudio. So it literally tells you how to do this if you forget within your data booklet that you get a copy of in your final exam, and you can also use during your project and throughout your lessons. If your teacher hasn't provided you with this, you can literally go into a search engine like Google and Google Higher Applications of Maths Data Booklet. It tells you to read in data from an Excel CSV file called excel_data.csv to RStudio and name it My Data. First, use the drop-down menus in RStudio. Session, set working directory, choose directory to indicate the location of excel_data.csv on your computer. The following code will then read the data into RStudio. My Data, read.csv, excel_data.csv. So there's a couple of different aspects here. First off, that you need to go to Session, set working directory and choose directory. To do that, you need to know where the data or where the spreadsheet file is saved on your computer. Here's mine, okay? Mine is saved within this folder here. It could be saved anywhere on your computer. I teach my classes to save it within their OneDrive, but and obviously that's going to be different in the exam because you won't have access to your own OneDrive, but you need to open the folder that you have all of your files saved in, and notice at the top, this is where kind of the path that I go to select my files can be found, okay? I know that they're there. Also note that you can only upload files to RStudio if they're saved as CSV files. So if I expand this here, you can see that these are all Microsoft Excel, separated values files. And that is what the CSV stands for. In your final exam, you usually get some files that are CSV files that are intended for use on a software package like RStudio, and then you might also get some files which are called XL, I'm forgetting the letters now, XSLS, something like that. And they're a different type of Excel file that isn't simple enough to be read into RStudio. So for RStudio, they have to be saved like this. And there is a way, and I'll show you in another video, how to save your files as a CSV file. But it's important that you know where those files are, because when we go to show RStudio where our files are saved, it won't necessarily understand that, or we won't be able to see where those files are. We won't be able to actually see them in the location. So I've opened RStudio, and remember it told you to go to Session, which is up here. Then you're going to go to Set Working Directory and choose directory, and this is you showing RStudio how to find those files. Okay, so mine were in this location here. Okay, and look, it says no items match your search, but I know I just showed you in that folder that my files are saved here. Look, it says 00.demo, and this is still 00.demo. It's the right place, and this is normal. You will not be able to see the files that you're looking for because you're not showing RStudio, here are the actual Excel files. You're telling it, I want you to go to this folder. So once we've got the folder open that you know you've saved them in, you can click open. Okay? If I then click Files down here on this side here, those files will then come up. So I can see that RStudio is looking within that folder. It gives me the location here, and I know that it's looking within that folder and it's found these files. However, I now need to read them into RStudio, and I'm going to do that using this code here. I'm actually going to copy and paste that. I personally find it much easier to copy and paste the codes on that I'm given on my data booklet and then edit them rather than typing them in, because I find that when I type them in, I quite often miss a space or a comma or something like that. So I personally find it easier to copy them, and you get to do this in your final exam too. You get an electronic version of this document, so you can do exactly the same thing in your final exam. So going to RStudio, and in the top box up here, you're going to paste that in. You can either right click and paste, or you can press Ctrl and V. Now, where it says my data, that is what you want it to be called. So every single time that you use whatever you write instead of my data, RStudio knows that's the data set that I'm referring to. So in my example, I'm going to be reading the basketball data into RStudio. So I could type in basketball here. However, if I do that, I'm dyslexic, and I'm quite often when I'm typing, I get my letters confused. So to make it easier for me, I'm just going to call it something that is easy for me to remember, like BB, or even just ball, for example, whatever you want. Okay. Somebody once said to me, could I just call them like A, B, C, D, E for all of my different data sets? You can, but then if you end up working with, say, 10 data sets, it's really difficult to remember which letter is which data set. So it's easier to call them something that is easy for you to remember, preferably with no big letters, and it doesn't really like it if you use numbers. So you use something that's really easy. It also doesn't like it if you put any spaces in. So no spaces, no numbers, something really straightforward and easy to type. I need to continue to have these symbols and read.csv. I need to have the brackets and the speech marks or the quotation marks. And I'm then going to look at my file, and it's called basketball.csv. It's all in lowercase. There are no spaces, no numbers. It's just basketball in lowercase. So I have got to repeat that exactly there. Okay. If I don't repeat it, if I type in basketball, for example, with a capital B, RStudio is going to look for a file called basketball with a capital B, and it isn't going to find one. Once you do that, click Run. Okay. And if I show you, say, for example, I mistype it, so I type in basket, and let's say I mistype it like this, and I click Run, I get all of these error messages. Okay, so it has to be exactly the same. It seems that it's actually read it fine when I've not put in the capitals, but sometimes it doesn't. So really important that you do that. Don't forget, you do have to click Run as well. If you don't click Run, it won't actually work. It won't actually use that code. So you can see at the bottom of my screen, there's no error message. I'm telling RStudio, whenever I type in BB, I want you to read from the CSV file basketball. Okay, so now every time I want to draw a graph, a chart, if I want to do some descriptive statistics or a hypothesis test, whatever I want to do, whenever I type in BB, RStudio knows to go straight to the basketball data set. You can view it as well, because if you look on this side up here, in your global environment, it'll come up with BB. And if I click on that, it'll actually bring up that entire thing. And you can see the titles that are in each of the columns, and you can see what's going on. Just close that if you want to go back to your script. I hope that video helps you. Let me know if there's any other videos that you would like to have. Bye.